Hello everybody, welcome to another Eternal Deck Tech. That's right, today we're looking into the Fall of Argenport. It has released as of right now, only a couple hours before, and I'm already here and already brewing. So let's dive right on in. One of the decks that I really wanted to make when I first looked at the set was going to be Wisps, and I've maybe done a little bit like this before. We had a deck that was all about using Varas and Xenan Cultists and things like that. So let me introduce you to Grave Wisps. So Grave Wisps is... we don't need a new deck image. So there's a lot of interface changes that have happened. So you might notice that there's now units and spells and power all kind of sorted out. You've got this button here to sort things. I've been away for a little while. I was out in GP Vegas, and yeah, lots and lots of changes happening to Eternal. It looks wonderful. So the deck, what's the point? What we're going to be trying to do is abusing a lot of different graveyard interaction, a lot of void interaction. So we want to constantly be putting our units into the void and then pulling them right back out. The Wisps in this set do a really, really good job of that. So there's some really cool Wisps that were added in Fall of Argenport. Probably the most important is Void Drummer. So we used to, in this deck, when I had this before in a similar plan, was use Xenan Cultist. Because when Xenan Cultist has one of your other units dies, that unit gets +2/+2. Very, very useful ability when you combine it with things like Ephemeral Wisp and Piercing Griefs and other revenge units, stuff like that, to get them really, really large. This one, Void Drummer, is one better. So it is an unblockable 2/2 for 3, so it can attack pretty well. But besides that, whenever it attacks, all the units in your Void get +2/+2. That's not until end of turn, that's just forever. And it does it every single turn. So if you have this thing going for 2 or 3 turns, and then you get back a Piercing Grief off of, say, Dark Return, it's going to be massive. Absolutely game-swinging. So there's some really, really cool things that you can do with Void Drummer. The other cool Wisps that we had added were Pathlighter, which has Deadly 1/1. Infiltrate, you reduce the cost of each Radiant in your hand by 1. Not super useful for us. However, it does have this Tribute, +2/+2. So if another unit has died this turn, one of ours, then we get +2/+2 onto it. So it immediately becomes a 3/3. And then after that, it's a 5/5, etc., etc. If you can pull it back to your hand somehow, so you can just keep getting it back over and over and over and over. It's good to trade off early, and then you can buy it back late for a bunch of value. I really, really like the idea of Pathlighter in this deck. You also have Magenta Wisp, which just slots in perfectly to the idea of Tribute that we just saw on Pathlighter, where we have to have a creature die, right? Well, this one has pay 1, sacrifice it, and kill an enemy unit with 3 cost or less. So for 3 cost, it's a Suffocate kill spell. Not exactly the best, except for the fact that you can just keep buying it back. You can do that both with the it works really well with Pathlighter for Tribute. You can buy it back by getting, your Dark Returns, but you can also buy it back with Memory Dredger, which we have in the deck, which when it hits an enemy player, play a unit cost 2 or less from your Void. You've already seen that one before, but it works real well with Piercing Grief, Magenta Wisp, and Ephemeral Wisp. The last creature that we have added in from set 4 is Soulbringer. So Soulbringer has been really cool. This is the other one that we can use to recur things like Magenta Wisp. And what it is when you play it, you immediately get a Wisp from your Void. If something has died, so for example, let's just say that your opponent has a 2/2 on the board, and you have 7 mana, which is a lot, but you go Magenta Wisp, pay, sacrifice, and then immediately play Soulbringer, get back your Magenta Wisp, and another one out of the Void. You could get something like Void Drummer. Void Drummer is itself a Wisp. Another thing, I mean, you don't even need to have 7, though. If Magenta Wisp was already in play, all you need is 5. You just pay 1, sacrifice it, draw back Soulbringer, and just do it again. So you can do some really, really cool things with Soulbringer. Very, very powerful recursion tool, and a lot of our stuff is recurable through it. And it's going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger every single time that we're doing this because we've got the Void Drummer and we've got the Xenan Cultists. Now we're going to move on. We've got some spells. So we want to try and add a little bit of consistency to this deck, because we do have some key cards that we want to draw. We want to be able to be drawing things like the Void Drummer and the Xenan Cultist. We want our recursion like Memory Dredger or Soulbringer. So we have to have those. Things like Ephemeral Wisp are really good at stalling the game out, but they're not going to win it on its own. And if your opponents have things like Overwhelm or Flying, they're going to kill you. So you need to have some way to get down to the more important spells and get the synergy flowing. And what we're going to be doing for that is we're going to be running 4 Ancient Lores. So draw 2 cards. Each unit drawn gets +1/+1, continuing to just make them bigger and bigger and bigger. We also have Devour, so we can sacrifice units to draw 2 cards, gain 2 life, which is excellent with Ephemeral Wisp. There's a lot of times where you'll play Ephemeral Wisp on 2, turn 3, play Devour, immediately draw power, play it, have your Ephemeral Wisp back in play. So it's just a really, really sweet card draw spell that way. We also run Cull the deck, and I'm not sure about this one. It's one that I only have 3 slots of right now. It might want to be Scheme, or maybe we can think about adding in some other cards. Maybe just go up on, say, extra Memory Dredgers and Soulbringers. It's certainly possible. But I like the idea of this Cull the deck, where you draw one of the top 3 cards of your deck and put the rest on the bottom. It's good for really like grabbing key cards at pivotal turns. So one of the things that you really want to do is use Piercing Grief with Xenan Initiation as part of your removal suite. So we already have Magenta Wisps as ways to kill things, but you also, a lot of the time, you can end up being behind, especially, like I said, to a flyer. And if you get a Piercing Grief, you really want to pair it with Xenan Initiation, because that's just such a massive swing back into the game. It means that you can kill something and gain a ton of life back. And Cull the deck, say that you have 6 mana, you have a Piercing Grief in hand, you can Cull the deck and hopefully try and find that Xenan Initiation, draw down to that key card that you need that turn. We also have the Dark Turns to continue with the recursion theme, and some extra banishes just to get rid of opposing relics, deal with some creatures that maybe we can't with Magenta Wisp and Xenan Initiation. This might want to be something like a Death Strike instead, because it really depends on how much we're going to be seeing relics. With all of the new cards, I wanted to hedge into a little bit of Banish, but I'm not 100% certain that that's exactly what we want to do. One thing that I actually did need to do here, sorry I forgot about this, is I was going to just up the Shadow Sigils just a little bit. So we're going to go down on Amber Waystones. We just want to be able to play our Seed of Mysteries undepleted most of the time. Amber Waystone is nice for our power base. It's just a little bit of extra life. Like I said, we can get behind a little bit if we are not able to get the synergy cards early on, and Ephemeral's Wisp is just kind of sitting there trying to tank damage and stop our opponent from winning the game before we can get all of this synergy rolling. And Amber Waystone buys you a little bit of time doing that. And we wanted to go up a little bit on Shadow because I have been playing this a bit today, and we have Void Drummers and Xenan Cultists that both cost 2. Same with Memory Dredger and Soulbringer. We have a lot of double costs, and I'm thinking that we needed to hedge a little bit higher into the Shadow range. And we're running, of course, the new Crest of Mystery. That's right. With set 4, we finally have crests that are in all of the different color pairs, so we're all set up. So Crest of Mystery will help out with the Xenan stuff, and then we have like the Seed of Mystery and Xenan banners, and there we go. This is our deck. We're gonna take it through its paces and see how she does.